Hello, I'm Scott Bogey here with Dallas Dodd ahead of his fight against Kevin Kidd on February 21st. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. And how are you feeling ahead of this upcoming fight?
Man, feeling confident like I always do. This is something that I've dedicated my whole life to. I spend day in and day out in the gym perfecting my craft. I have an amazing team, an amazing set of coaches. So something for me, like confidence is something for me that comes pretty natural due to the work I put in.
And am I correct in saying you train under is it Andrew Craig?
Andrew Craig, UFC vet.
Yeah. And how has that been to be able to get his experience from obviously the UFC and everything?
Yeah, well, early on it sucked because he was beating me up all the time. He was still in the UFC when I first met him. So it really allowed me to understand early on that there are levels to this.
Yeah.
And then seeing him win at the highest level and also lose at the highest level, I got to already start getting introduced to what it takes before, way before I was even close to being ready.
And were you able to see like not even just the major changes in like the training regime, but even just like the small technical stuff that they might have just been doing just a little bit differently than what you're normally doing.
100%, 100%, and that's kind of the case for any generation before you, right? Is
Yeah.
they get to make some mistakes and learn kind of the hard way. So hopefully that way I don't have to. You know what I mean? So even at that time back then compared to now, I've seen the way we prepare for fights is even different now compared to back then. It's just continued to get perfected and always going back to the drawing board, win or loss.
And how do you feel like Kevin's going to come into this fight? Do you feel like he's going to want to keep it on the ground, or do you feel like he's going to stand and trade?
I mean, if Kevin and his team have done any research on me, they know they're set up for failure really anywhere the fight goes.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the feet, whether it's on the ground, I'm better than this guy everywhere. I think he's going to come out the same way he always comes out. I think he's going to come out flat-footed. His southpaw stance doesn't show anything to threaten from me. I am traditionally an orthodox fighter, but I fight both stances. I believe I'm a better southpaw fighter than he will. I might come out of this fight southpaw and match close stance with him the whole fight and give him a different look. But I see him coming out flat-footed uh, and getting overwhelmed by the volume and the speed pretty early on. I predict the first round finish on my end.
Exactly. And unfortunately, you weren't able to get the victory in the last fight.
Yeah.
However, what have you been able to learn from that fight that you can take into this?
Yeah, so obviously we have to address the elephant in the room in regards to my last fight. There's really no excuse, it's as as an athlete in general, all you want to do is be able to compete, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if somebody were to truly go in there and outclass me in every aspect and really break me and beat me up, man, like hats off to him, you know what I mean? And I will give respect where it's due, but man, there's really not much to say about it other than the fact I got clipped. It was early on in the fight.
Yeah.
I understood exactly what was going on. I felt good the first 30 seconds the way it was going. I was flashing the snap kick. I landed the low kick. I checked his low kick. I backed him up with the double jab cross, jab to the body. I remember it all. The first overhand he threw, I framed. The second one, boom, I wake up right away as soon as I hit the cage. And it's one of those moments where you're like, ah, oh, no. You're like, give me 2 more seconds. And it was so frustrating. I've never been dropped, rocked, or knocked out in my life, like not even in training. And we spar so hard. So it was it was a bit weird the fact that it even happened. And I like knew exactly what was going on. So I just was so frustrated because I didn't even get to compete. So it's like I have to charge it to the game.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I think Richard's a great fighter, but I believe if we fight 10 times, I win 9 out of those times. So it is what it is.
And you are competing on this same card. A good finish and against Kevin. You never know, you can try and set up that rematch.
Yeah, I mean, as far as rematching Richard, I definitely want that fight one day. As far as fighting him again on the regional scene, to be honest, I understand this game very well,
Yeah.
and I think if Richard wins this next fight and gets a finish himself, he'll probably move up. I probably realistically won't even have an opportunity to fight him on the regional scene again. Now, maybe if he loses and it's something he's interested in, that would be great. I think it'd be pretty tough to entice someone to fight you again when they beat you in 30 seconds. But I believe that fight, if it were to ever happen again, I would love that opportunity. Obviously, as for my own ego. But I would want it to happen on the big show. I'd want it to happen in the UFC and have it mean a little bit more, put a little more pressure on him and get my redemption on a bigger stage. But yeah, we'll see. You know what I mean? I can't really focus too much
Yeah.
on that fight. Like I said, it's not even a fight I can go back and watch film on and learn too much from. So I really didn't spend too much time overthinking it. I just had to quite literally take it on the chin.
Exactly. And do you feel like there's a wee bit of like pressure off you now that you don't have that, oh, this is an undefeated prospect. You've got that little bit of pressure is taken away.
Yeah, I mean, pressure can be somewhat of an illusion. I mean, like for me, like fighting, I'm a winner. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and and if we really, if we tell the whole story and we look at Dallas Dodd as an MMA fighter, maybe outside of 90 seconds and all the time I've been in the cage, outside of about 90 seconds, I'm dominating the fight in every aspect against every single one of my opponents. So I tend to really just take it fight by fight. Yeah, it just, it, like I said, win or loss, I always try to learn something. So I took what I needed to from it, but I'm really not like, I was never really putting too much pressure on myself as far as being an undefeated fighter anyway. I want to be a fighter who focuses more on performance and highlights because it is an entertainment sport. You know, I want to earn everything in this game. You know, so as far
Yeah.
as like as far as like yeah, it is what it is.
And obviously, Fury FC, it has got a very big name to it, and
Hmm.
it's now probably it has now got the recognition it has deserved in the fact that it is a feeder to the UFC. You
Yeah.
have people like Cameron Smotherman, it was over 10 people on the Contender Series last year. So
Hmm.
is that one of the big things that draws you to Fury?
That Smotherman moment that he had on a Contender Series was, or not in Contender Series. He took a last minute fight
Yeah,
actually.
against Jake
Yeah,
Hadley.
Smotherman. I think he had lost his Contender Series fight, but to see him get his short call up and to get that fight against a veteran like that, that was one of my favorite moments last year as a fan. Regardless of being Fury family in general, but yeah, number one, I'm pretty lucky from just a region standpoint. I'm already in Texas. So Fury made the most sense in general because
Yeah,
commute for me is pretty easy. They fight in San Antonio and Houston, and so number one, it's easy for me. Number two, it is a direct feeder. So obviously, I have to be smart in this game, and I'm not going to be. No offense to some smaller promotions, but I know the kind of athlete I am, and I don't really feel the need to waste my time in smaller promotions that aren't going to get me to the big show. I need it now because I believe I'm ready right now. The rooms I've
yeah.
been in, the guys I've trained with, I need someone who's going to send me there ASAP. So yeah, Fury checks all the boxes. They treat me very well. They treat all the fighters very well. They're very fair. They put on a lot of events, so they're very active. Um, a lot of boxes are checked with them. So I couldn't be more grateful. I feel very lucky.
And then obviously you were able to do that transition from being an amateur to the pro through Fury.
Yeah.
Did that make that transition any easier than if you were just going about the regional scene in the amateurs and then going up to that pro trying to work that way out as well?
Yeah, I think w- with me being I was an amateur champion for Fury.
Yeah.
In my amateur career I fought for multiple titles. Even before MMA, when I fought Muay Thai as well, I fought for a handful of amateur titles. So it was nothing new, but to do it for a promotion like that, it only made sense to just roll right into my pro contract with them. And that transition was very smooth. I believe I earned that and then some.
And then you might know this, you might not, but you have the Challenger series for Fury, and then
Hmm.
you also have the normal Fury 100, 101.
Right.
Is there any differences between them? Because everyone that I've spoken to, they don't really know the difference.
Yeah, I'll explain to you the difference. um, like I told you, Scott, I know every aspect of this game. So any question you have, brother, I'm your guy. So Fury Challenger Series is it's not a part of UFC Fight Pass.
Okay.
So like I said, Fury does such a good job of putting on so many shows. If they were only Fury FC, they would have to be Fight Pass shows, which would actually, when we talked about my amateur career, it would actually take away from a lot of the amateurs because we only allow so many amateur. I say we. Fury
Yeah,
only allows so many amateur fights per UFC Fight Pass event, right? They're not going to have a an amateur stacked card on a UFC Fight Pass platform. They're gonna emphasize the pro fights. So having something like a challenger series allows them to really like start to build up their younger group, which only then leads into the next
Yeah,
wave of guys and so on and so forth. So they've really set themselves up well with the Challenger Series. So that's the difference. And funny enough, there's one this weekend. There's a Challenger Series this weekend, and my teammates, Cade Foradori and Sean Magnus, are actually the co-main event and the main event. They're fighting for their amateur titles. So it'll be more amateur champions in our stable, and I'm looking forward to it. So if you could watch that fight tomorrow, I would definitely check it out.
exactly. And how is it having these people go out, get titles, and bring them back to your team? How does that lift like the morale?
Well, on the mats is scary because they just get more confident and better, and they beat me up even more. So on the day to day, I don't know if I like it too much because they're getting so good. But no, it's great. It's also like I said, like the work we put in and the team we have. We're young. We're very
Yeah,
young, and we're just now starting to get talked about. But when you see these powerhouse gyms across the world, I believe in a few years when we have several guys in the UFC, we'll be one of those gyms that people talk about. We don't just have quantity in our room; we really have quality as well. There's a good dozen of us that I believe all have the talent and capability and mindset to really make it to the big show. Um, so yeah, I feel very good. The morale just continues to rise. Right, with every win, you get more confident,
yeah.
and as long as you don't sleep on a win, it'll only accumulate and turn into something better.
And you have a lot of guys at your gym, whereas you're not having to go out and bring people in for certain matchups. There's always going to be that one guy in the gym who is at certain height or does that certain
Yeah.
stance that be able to help you out.
Yeah. I think that's always something that's very tough in this game, and regardless of who you have in the room, I think cross train is important. It's good to switch it up too because sometimes you go with the same guys all the time, and you're giving each other the same look. Like my teammates know my game better than anyone, so they hit me more than
Yeah,
anyone. They score on me more than anyone. I lose rounds to them more than anyone, right? But a lot of us are like featherweight, lightweight, welterweight is like really like our stable of group. I think I think the smaller weight class guys tend to have the most trouble, and the heavier weights. I think when you look at the both ends of the scale, that's where you tend to have to bring people in. But a lot of our guys are the same size. I mean, just welterweights alone, there's like seven of us. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
so we really don't need to do too much cross training. The only time we do it isn't necessarily out of necessity. It's more so just to get a different look and continue to grow from different athletes, and that's just something that's I think important for anyone. But to be honest, I don't need to go anywhere, and I'm very lucky.
And then obviously, what does 2025 hold for you? Last year, you got that pro debut out of the way, you got three fights under the belt. What
Hmm.
are you wanting from 2025?
Yeah, this will be four fights in 11 months for me. This will be like five fights in the past like 15 months. So I'm very active, and I think the best skill, the best ability is availability. So obviously, as an athlete and as just like a human in general, I want to always be healthy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if there's anything I really hope for, it's to be healthy, so I can continue to compete, so I can get to that big show. Like I said, this last fight, it was what it was. Like I didn't feel like I got beat. I felt like I just got caught. I see February 21st going no different than how it normally goes for me. Like I said, I'm predicting a finish, another win, making easy work of this guy, getting a quick turnaround again, stacking another win, and doing what I need to do to get to contender series. Whatever they're wanting to see from me, I'll accomplish that. But in the conversations I've had with people, I believe I handle business. Um, get another fight in, take care of business again. You'll see me on contender series by the end of the year.
So if you get once you get the win here, you take the other fight, you get that win. Are you looking to sit out, or if you were to bring up another name, would you take that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't want anything handed to me. You know what I mean? I want
Yeah,
it when I get the call up. whether that's contender series or some sort of uh, I mean, the goal's contender series. I love that platform. I think it's like perfect for where I'm at. I don't have like 20 fights. I don't have like
Yeah.
15. I know double digit fights yet from a professional standpoint. So I really like contender series the way it like introduces you to the fan base who might not know you. I love the platform, having the bosses right there front row. I love that. I think the UFC does such a good job with creating that. But as far as like what I want, I mean, we'll see. I want to handle business February 21st, most importantly, and I want to remind everybody who I am and what I bring to this welterweight division. Long, dangerous, rangy, wicked in both stances, scary. You know what I mean? I don't hesitate in there, and I know however many fights it takes until I get to the big show. When I do get there, I'm gonna hit the ground running.
Now, if I was to give you two contracts just now, one is that Contender Series contract, the other one is a part of the Ultimate Fighter. Which road would you rather take?
Um, I would imagine that you're referring to the Ultimate Fighter that's coming up. That's actually
Yeah,
welterweights.
yeah,
Yeah. I I mean, I really don't mind either one. You know what I mean? Like I think either one that I get presented, you put a camera in front of my face, you put ex athlete in front of me, I I steal the show. I genuinely do, and that, like I said, that just comes from the confidence of the work I put in and everything I've sacrificed over the year before anyone ever even knew my name. So I'm okay with either one. I think both might have their I guess their pros and cons in their own way. From just being impatient. I wouldn't even
yeah.
want to wait till the end of the year. Um, but also being like an Ultimate Fighter per se. You're away from home. You're away from your team. Your normal routine. I am a very like
Yeah.
routine kind of guy. So I mean, there would be a little adjustment there, but also too like fighting is so much fun. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love it. You know what I mean? So whatever situation could possibly occur, I truly would just trust in the universe that is what's meant to be. So not necessarily preference to either. I think both are great. Ultimate Fighter has a legacy that is just like unlike no other. It's what really like kind of initially put UFC on the map from a fan base standpoint.
Yeah.
It really
The
the trajectory of
uplifting.
it. Yeah, exactly. With the Stephen Bonner fight and Forrest Griffin. So I respect Ultimate Fighter and contender series. Like I said, it's a new wave. It's its own thing too, which would be really cool to be a part of. So man, I would really just be grateful to be a part of either one because both lead to the inevitable.
So this is your fourth fight in Fury as a pro. Have you signed a new deal to extend, or were you just like a four fight deal?
Yeah, I signed a 4 fight deal. So after this fight, we will discuss what's next.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I think like some of the questions you're asking, I'll have a better idea of after this
after the
fight.
fight. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But as far as like how it would be structured, I don't know if like technically I would sign another 4 fight and then maybe I get bumped up before that ends.
yeah.
But I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure it'd be like one-off deals until I get the call up. But it'll be with Fury, yeah.
And obviously, everyone just had great things to say about Eric Garcia. I'm guessing that's the case about you. It's just a great partnership.
Yeah, Eric, and it's not just Eric, it's Rich. I mean, the whole Fury team is awesome. I mean, number one, like obviously there's no show without the athletes, right?
Yeah,
So I understand like my worth as an athlete, but also too like there's no show if you don't have all these people who are not fighters who are putting in all this work from the tech guys, from the people who break down the cage to from top to bottom. So they've all been pivotal for me to even have a platform to compete on like that. So I'm super grateful. Like Eric is very cool. Rich Birdmaster is awesome. I feel like they look out for me for sure, but they do it in such a professional way where it doesn't feel like bias. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah, nothing but great things to say about them.
And they do put up matchups which they should be putting up. There's nothing like stat padding or
Right.
if it is a great fight, they will put it. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
I think it was just a couple of events ago, Gabriel Wanderelli. I can't remember
Hmm.
who he was facing, but both those guys were at the top of the game and they were facing each other. So it doesn't matter who you are going. If you're the best, you're getting
Yeah.
put to the best.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, no, I don't want those guys to fight each other because I just want both of them to make
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? That's happened several times, but you have to respect that because that's what this game is. Someone loses, someone wins. But I also think that's what makes MMA so great. It's not like boxing, you know what I mean? Boxing's
yeah,
kind of shot itself in the foot with this mentality of like being undefeated forever. And it's easy for me to say that now that I've suffered my first loss. But MMA allows that, you know what I mean? There's so many ways
yeah,
to win and there's so many ways to lose. So it's like I think if you I think if you're meant to make it to the big show, like it'll happen, you know, outside of any unfortunate events. But yeah, I definitely see like no easy fights. It's cool seeing the best guys fight each other, especially even when I'm not like competing. I'll go watch the fights live because they really are that good.
yeah, exactly. And like you're saying with the boxing thing, a one defeat does kind of like hurt your career massively.
Hmm.
Each defeat is more money coming off. You have here in the
Yeah.
UK, Anthony Joshua just suffered his third defeat, and there
Mm.
is people talking, should he go back into the boxing ring?
See,
Whereas in MMA, you have people in Max Holloway, multiple defeats, but still being able to fight for that UFC featherweight title.
did you just watch the fights a few hours ago?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, even like Imanov, I'm looking at him. I didn't even realize he had four losses. But he's such a beast, you know what I mean? And you really see that like all these guys have losses. It is what it is. There's so many ways to lose in this game, and also too with the factor of there being 4 ounce gloves. Man, there's a little more pop, you know, when you get hit in the money spot. So you can uh you can always you can always chalk it up to that. And I feel like the game itself is a little more forgiving in that sense. But I like the idea of being able to bounce back and get back on the horse and still do the damn thing. Unlike boxing, it sucks because Anthony Joshua is a great example. You said like his third loss, that's not even a big deal.
yeah,
He's amazing. You know what I mean? He's such a good boxer, and it's the fans too. Like you obviously love this sport. I love this sport, and so we understand it a little bit better. But some of these fickle fans, these keyboard warriors, they're gonna obviously make it sound like it's the end of the world.
yeah,
But really, it comes down to the athlete and whether or not they want to bounce back and continue. You know what I mean? Like you saw Izzy. It, it's one of those things you're like, dang, I don't know if he's done or not. But
yeah.
realistically, you look at that first round, I think he looked better than ever, and I still think he can beat 95% of the game. You know what I mean in his weight class. But yeah, it just depends on your mindset, what it is you're truly trying to do in this game, and whether or not you can keep going. But I definitely, like you kind of mentioned too earlier, there is a little bit of relief when you do get that first loss, and you know you don't have to even focus on that so much because it's really not about that. It's just about continuing to grow, and as long as I'm getting better, then I feel good. You know, the day I feel stagnant or I feel slower or my reactions are off, then that's a completely different conversation. But yeah.
And speaking about the UFC, your weight class, the welterweight division, do you feel like the tide is starting to turn? Like the Colby Covingtons, the Kamaru Usmans, they're starting to move down the rankings, whereas the next wave, the Ian Garys, the Shavaks, they're now
Hmm.
starting to come through, getting those title opportunities. Do you see that shift starting to come in that ranking system?
Yeah, it's already happening. It's already happened. I feel like Usman, man, like he's got to be one of the most underrated champions of all time. Like I feel
Yeah,
like the conversations that people have about him, like maybe once again it's just like those like negative fans that I'm referring to, but man, like that guy, he's one of the best of all time. When you look at his resume on paper, it's crazy. He's a guy who came up through the Ultimate Fighter. I remember that season. I remember watching that season, and that was kind of around the time where funny enough, during that season, I remember it was like the Black Zillions versus American Top Team.
yeah.
That was around the time where I was like starting to train, and I was like, man, this is something I want to do. And people laughed at me. Nobody believed me. You know what I mean? And now look where we're headed. But the tide has already happened. Kobe Covington's done. I feel like I beat that guy right now. I feel like there's a lot of those like has has-beens. I don't mean it disrespectfully, older guys who are on their way out that I feel like I would steamroll. But it's these young guys that are scary that you have to watch out for. The Ian Gary, the Shavkat, these guys. But man, even then, you find holes in everyone's game, and even some of these top guys. Soon enough, in no time, you're going to see me matched up with them, and I'll be the one that people are talking about.
Okay, so Eric, if you're watching this, Fury 105, Dallas Dodd, Chloe Covington, book it.
Exactly.
Pay the guy
Get him
what
to
he
come
needs.
down. I think Kobe will stick to gambling before he would even want to come down to a regional scene and fight. It's funny. I will say we're talking about Kobe Covington. He actually trains out of MMA Masters, which is where Richard Mayol, the guy I just fought recently, and suffered my loss to. That's where he trains out of his MMA Masters. And I remember seeing an interview that Kobe did where he talked about how he feels that Richard is a future champion of this division in the UFC. And I laughed. Oh my God, I laughed. I said in my head, I was like, what does this guy know about being a champion? You know what I mean? He's only been
Yeah,
an interim. He's lost every fight that mattered most. And I
yeah,
remember
three
being
title
like,
fights, three losses.
yeah, and I remember being like a little angry at that when I had heard that. And sure enough, took the L, and it is what it is. So maybe he might be onto something. We'll see. So
Do I
that's
take
another reason
back that
why.
statement?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, also too, fair play. If it's one of those things, like if that's my only loss, and he goes on and does great things,
Yeah.
it only makes me look that much better, right? So I definitely wish nothing but the best for Richard and the MMA Masters team in general. Obviously, are doing something right because if you're even out positioning me or scoring on me in any kind of way, you must be doing something right. Your coaches and your team. So I really can't hate on that at all. Um, so it's funny that we brought up Kobe. It just made me think about that. So
Now going back to you, how did you get into MMA?
yeah, so I kind of referred to like that Ultimate Fighter season. That's
Yeah,
not why, but I just from a timing standpoint, it was around that time where I didn't know what I was gonna do. Like people were talking about go to college. You know what I mean? Family and friends around you. You see everyone kind of do the same thing, and I knew like the corporate life. I just wanted more out of life. There's nothing wrong with
yeah.
it. You know what I mean? You got to have the worker bees. You got to have people who are hardworking and willing to really just find a trade and stick to it. And I respect that. But for me, I always wanted something more out of life. And as a young man, you got to find yourself. So getting into martial arts, I was able to kind of kill two birds with one stone. I was really able to find myself as a man through discomfort. You put yourself in uncomfortable situations until you become uncomfortable in them. And there's nothing more raw and real than fighting. We're all here kind of because of it. Don't even want to talk about Scottish history. My name, even my name Dodd, it's derived from the name O'Dowd. So my name itself is Scott Irish. So there's something in my blood there, and we're all fighters, right? And it sparked this life in me and gave me an energy that I could have never expected. And the more you train, the more you put into it, you start doing well, and it becomes a very feasible thing. And then you get caught up in the monotony of training, and a few years fly by, and it's my everything. It's my life, and nothing has ever come more natural to me, and I couldn't be more thankful that it found me.
Exactly. And I will be watching, so I'll be looking to see that Scottish flag around you when you're walking down to that octagon.
Let's go.
I'll let you have the final word. Is there anyone you're wanting to shout out or anything you're wanting to add?
Yeah, I mean, as far as shout outs go, like anytime I have any kind of platform, we're talking about this game, and I wouldn't be here without my coaches and teammates. I already mentioned a few of them. There's so many to name, and you'll get to meet them and interview them, I'm sure, over time, and the whole world's gonna know about my squad soon enough. We just have to keep handling business one at a time. So yeah, shout out to my coaches, shout out to my teammates, shout out to my amazing girlfriend. I have the best partner, man. She's so supportive. She runs all my nutrition and camps. She handles my weight cuts. I'm nowhere near a millionaire yet. The regional scene, as great as it is, all the compliments I've been given, I'm doing the same thing that the best guys in the world are doing.
Yeah.
Same size gloves, same rules. I'm just making a hundredth of what they're making, if not even less. So to have somebody who supports me emotionally, spiritually, even financially, a little bit is a blessing, and I can't wait to continue to get back to her, and even then some one day. Hopefully, retire her and all that. So those are the people I'm gonna always shout out: my girl, my team, my coaches.
Well, that's just great. Thank you for coming on, and make sure you watch his Dallas fight on February 21st and watch him get that first round stoppage, and we can see what happens after that. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much, Sky. I appreciate it.